So generative AI is absolutely changing the game in human resources. I mean, it promises to make everything faster, from hiring all the way to employee feedback. But there's kind of a ghost in the machine we need to talk about: bias. As we automate more and more, how do we make sure fairness doesn't get left behind? Let's dive in and explore how to keep HR human.
All right, so what does this new AI assistant actually do? Let's take a look at how it's really transforming the day-to-day for HR professionals.
And wow, the difference is just night and day, right? On one hand, you have the old way, overflowing in trays, hours just sifting through resumes. And on the other, you have job posts getting drafted in minutes and mountains of employee feedback turning into clear, actionable insights like almost instantly. We're not just talking about a small improvement, this is a total transformation. But here's the thing, it's not just about speed. We've kind of graduated from AI as a simple calculator to AI as a creative collaborator. It's no longer just about crunching the numbers, it's helping to write the playbook, coming up with new strategies and new content. That is a huge shift in its role inside HR.
Okay, but, and this is a big but, with all this incredible power comes a pretty significant risk. It's one we absolutely have to tackle head on if we really want to build a fairer workplace. This is basically the golden rule for ethical AI. Just because the technology is capable of making a decision doesn't automatically mean it should. It really forces us to stop and weigh what's technically possible against our own human values, to focus not just on what we can do, but on what's right. And look, this isn't some abstract what-if scenario. It's already happened. Some of the very first AI hiring tools were trained on decades of old company data. The problem? Well, that historical data was full of bias. So the AI just learned our own worst habits and started systematically favoring male candidates. It ended up amplifying the exact discrimination we were hoping to fix. So, this is super important. How does this bias even get into our systems in the first place? Well, it turns out there are three main ways it creeps in that we really need to watch out for. So, these are the three main culprits, the primary ways that bias can poison an AI system. And just understanding the difference between them is honestly the most critical first step toward finding a solution. So let's start with the most obvious one. First up, we've got data bias. You know the old saying, garbage in, garbage out? That's exactly this. If you train an AI on historical data where, say, men were always hired for leadership roles, the AI doesn't see that as a past injustice. It just sees it as a successful pattern to copy. Next, things get a little sneakier with design bias. So you might tell the AI, hey, don't consider gender, but it could learn that the most successful candidates in the past played a certain sport or went to a very specific university. If that proxy variable is strongly connected to one demographic, well, you end up with the same discriminatory result, just through the back door. And finally, we kind of have to look in the mirror for this one, our own decision bias. This is our natural tendency to just trust the machine a little too much. When an AI spits out a clean, confident recommendation, it's so easy for us to switch off our own critical thinking and just click approve, even if something feels a little off. Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem pretty thoroughly. Now for the good part. Let's open up the playbook and start talking about how to actually build ethical AI systems and solve this. What's so powerful here is that it's not just theory. It draws a direct line from a specific risk to a practical solution. To fight algorithmic bias, you run regular audits and use diverse data. To solve that black box problem and build trust, you focus on clear communication. And to stop ourselves from relying too much on the AI, you have to design systems that always keep a human in the loop. And this is actually happening out there in the real world. Take IBM, for example. They've set up a dedicated AI ethics board. Its whole job is to act as a gatekeeper, making sure that any new HR tool passes these tough fairness and privacy checks before it ever gets near a real employee or candidate. You know what's so great about this? It's a repeatable process. It's basically a 4-step cycle anyone can use. Audit before you launch, check for privacy, keep monitoring it after it's live, and be totally transparent with your people. This is a real practical framework for building accountability. Okay, this is huge because it shows how much power we actually have in this whole process. If you give the AI a lazy, vague prompt, you're going to get a lazy and potentially biased result. But if you give it a really specific, well-crafted prompt that tells it exactly what its role is and what you need, you can actively steer it towards a much fairer and more useful answer. Prompting is a critical skill for ethical AI.
So let's move on to the final, and honestly, I think the most important piece of this entire puzzle: the fact that you simply cannot replace human judgment.
The goal here is not replacement, it's partnership. Let the AI do the heavy lifting, you know? Let it do the initial data crunching, the first draft of a job description, the summary of 500 performance reviews. But that final call, the decision that takes context and empathy and all that human nuance, that has to stay with a person. This right here is the ultimate litmus test. Before you act on whatever the AI recommends, just pause and ask yourself this one simple question. If a human colleague walked up to you and suggested this, would it feel fair? If the answer is no, or even maybe not, then you've just found a flaw in the system. It's that final, crucial gut check.
And really, that's the balance we have to find. Use AI for what it's amazing at, finding patterns in data. But we have to make sure that the final ethical decisions, the ones that shape people's careers and change their lives, always stay firmly in human hands. I guess the real question for all of us is, what's the biggest barrier to getting that balance right where we work?